The dark Hershey's and the white Snickers were notorious gangs known for their illicit services, ranging from debt collection to trafficking contraband and carrying out violent acts for a fee. While they used to work together as one, a sudden rift tore them apart. Despite the animosity, neither gang was willing to vacate the building they once shared. As a result, they now operate independently within the same premises, doing the same business. The cause of their feud remains a mystery, persisting for years till date. Jovan became the new leader of the dark Hershey's while Zane took over the white Snickers. They despised each other so intensely that they often arranged secret one-on-one fights. Their mutual hatred was well known, and their gang members always made sure they kept their distance. One day, members of the dark Hershey's and the white Snickers debated over who usually won the fights between Zane and Jovan, as they never seemed to return with any bruises. They both claimed their leaders won, so to settle the argument, they proposed a public fight. Jovan and Zane instantly agreed, and the fight was scheduled. On the day of the fight, just as the referee was about to start the countdown, Zane delivered a powerful punch to Jovan's cheek, causing him to crumple to the floor. The members were stunned, realizing why Zane always seemed unharmed after their fights. Zane hurriedly ushered the members out, saying, "Let's leave before I finish him off." They exited, engrossed in their debate once more. Zane stealthily returned and lightly tapped Jovan's cheek to rouse him. Jovan blinked open his eyes and sat up, rubbing his bruised cheek, remarking, "You didn't hold back at all, not even a warning." Zane grinned, leaning in to kiss Jovan's cheek and cradling it tenderly, saying, "I'm sorry, I had to make it convincing." Jovan chuckled, retorting, "This little kiss won't heal this." Zane pulled Jovan into an intense kiss, pressing his lips firmly against his. They rose together, locked in a fervent kiss, making their way to their secret room, knocking over objects in their path in their passionate frenzy. Zane and Jovan had been a couple since high school, unaffected by the long-standing animosity between their families. They had always been friends, even before they fell in love and began dating. Their private fights were merely a pretext for spending time alone together, and mostly eating each other up. Their fathers took the feud between their families very seriously, so they couldn't be seen together as even friends. They had no problem with their secret dating and even found it to be thrilling and fun. Everything changed when Jovan's father was diagnosed with terminal cancer, leaving him with little time to live. As his final wish, he asked Jovan to marry a girl he had chosen and to have a child, ensuring there would be someone to succeed him in the family business. Jovan was torn. He loved Zane deeply and couldn't fathom marrying anyone else, let alone a stranger, but he also couldn't ignore his dying father's wish. It was the least he could do for his father. Zane was stunned when Jovan revealed his intention to comply with his father's wish to marry the girl chosen for him. Zane questioned, "What about me? Do you not care about me? If you can so easily agree to marry a stranger your father picked, then maybe you never truly loved me." Jovan replied, "I really loved you. I still do, very much, but you don't understand. I'm about to lose the only family I have, and making him happy in his final days is all I can do." Zane asked, "So if your father asked you to end my life as his dying wish, would you it?" Jovan responded, "You know, that doesn't make sense." Zane then declared, "Forget it. It's clear you've made your choice. The moment you walk out that door, we're done. I don't want to see you or your shadow ever again. Good luck with your marriage." He then gestured his hand towards the door for Jovan to leave. Jovan began, "This is not easy for me," but Zane interrupted, his tone firm, "If you won't leave, then I will." He made his way to the door, swinging it open. Pausing before stepping out, he looked back at Jovan and said, "Even though I'm the one walking out the door, we're still over." With that, he exited, slamming the door behind him. Jovan's father introduced him to the girl, Lexi, but from the moment they met, it was clear she didn't like him either. Am I making the right decision? Jovan wondered silently to himself. Jovan's father eagerly planned the wedding, investing time and money into the preparations. Jovan distanced himself from Zane, unable to face him. Long story short, on the wedding day, Lexi eloped with her boyfriend. Jovan's father also discovered that his diagnosis actually belonged to someone else, and he was perfectly healthy. Filled with regret, Jovan realized his foolishness, breaking up with Zayn and agreeing to marry someone he didn't love and living the rest of his life in a miserable, loveless marriage. He wanted to get Zayn back, and this time nothing, not even a hurricane, can separate them. Jovan visited Zayn, and upon seeing him, Zayn attempted to shut the door. Jovan blocked it with his feet. Despite the pain, he persevered as Zayn pushed against the door, biting his lip in pain. Eventually, Zayn relented, releasing the door, allowing Jovan to enter. Zayn spoke, "I thought I made it clear that I don't want to see you anymore." Jovan's expression softened as he replied, "I'm sorry, really. I've realized how foolish I was, and I regret ruining our relationship." Zayn cut, "Apologizing won't change anything. If your bride hadn't run away, you'd be married now. I'm not an object you can discard and pick up whenever you please. You made your choice to leave our relationship, and there's no turning back." Jovan pleaded, "Can't you give me another chance?" Zayn stated, "I've moved on, and so should you." Jovan asserted, "I won't give up on us." Zayn responded, "Suit yourself, but I'm done." In the days following, Jovan tried everything to get Zayn to forgive him and get back together, but Zayn seemed to have moved on. One day, Jovan spotted Zayn with another man and approached them, questioning Zayn who the man was. Zayn introduced the man as his boyfriend, Blake. Jovan protested, "You're lying. It hasn't even been 2 months since we broke up." Zayn retorted, "So, did you expect me to wait for you?" Jovan pleaded, "You don't have to do this to get back at me." Zayn chuckled and said, "Don't flatter yourself." Zayn then leaned in and kissed Blake deeply in front of Jovan, then took Blake's hand and led him away, leaving Jovan behind. Jovan didn't know how to feel about what he just saw. He couldn't stand that Zayn had kissed someone who is not him and had moved on so easily. He painfully and reluctantly accepted that he had to let Zayn go. There was nothing he could do. Now, he can't break up Zayn and his new boyfriend. In the days that followed, Jovan always saw Zayn smiling happily together with Blake. Despite accepting that he had to let Zayn go, he couldn't bear seeing them together. Maybe the only way to move on was to be enemies with Zayn. The fake enmity between Jovan and Zayn became real. He began provoking Zayn at every opportunity, and Zayn always retaliated in kind. Their animosity escalated to the point where their respective gang members made sure they never crossed paths, knowing that when they did, chaos ensued. One day, both Jovan and Zayn were summoned by their fathers. They were surprised to find their fathers sitting together, a sight they never thought they'd witness. They wondered what was happening. To their astonishment, their fathers announced that the dark Hershey's and the white Snickers would be merging once again, and the long-standing enmity between them was to be dissolved. Jovan and Zayn asked what they will do then, and their fathers revealed that they would now be running the business together. The guys both protested, "You've made us hate each other our whole lives, and suddenly you want us to get along and run the business together?" Their fathers replied, "Don't think we didn't know about your secret friendship all this time. Isn't this good news? You don't have to hide your friendship anymore." Jovan and Zayn both responded simultaneously, "We are not friends," exchanging glares as they did so. Their fathers reiterated that their decision was final before leaving. Zayn, also annoyed, walked away. When he informed his gang about the impending merge, they erupted in jubilation. Perplexed by their reaction, Zayn questioned why they were happy, insisting that this wasn't good news. The room fell silent, and Zayn urged them to brainstorm ways to stop the merger. One night, Zayn stumbled upon one of his gang members and a member of the White Snickers making out. He was surprised, and just then, Jovan appeared. Zayn scanned his expression for any hint of surprise, but Jovan didn't look surprised at all. Zayn asked, "Did you know?" Jovan responded, "It seems you're the only one who wasn't aware. Members of your gang and mine have been getting along. They're all friends now, and some are even dating each other." Zayn muttered to himself, so that's why they were jubilating. Suddenly realizing who he was speaking with, Zayn's irritation resurfaced as he asked, "Why are you talking to me?" Jovan retorted, "You asked me a question first," but Zayn had already turned to leave. Zayn gathered his members and asked who was in favor of the merge. They all raised their hands. Zayn let out a heavy sigh. Accepting the merge meant he would have to see Jovan every day, all day long, but he couldn't be a selfish leader. The dark Hershey's and the white Snickers decided to celebrate their merge with a party. They didn't have to hide to hang out or date anymore. At the party, Jovan noticed Zane sitting alone, deep in thought. He approached and asked, "Why are you alone? Where's your boyfriend?" Zane replied, "He's an introvert who doesn't like parties." Jovan remarked, "He doesn't look like someone who hates parties." Zane retorted, "Do you need to see it written on his face? And why do you keep talking to me?" Jovan countered, "We're one now. We can't avoid each other anymore." Zane rolled his eyes and walked away. In the following days, the dark Hershey's and the white Snickers began working together, but Jovan and Zane made a conscious effort to avoid partnering up. They tried to run the business together peacefully, keeping their distance from each other. One day, while Jovan was on a job, he stumbled upon Blake, making out with another woman in a car. Jovan approached for a closer look to confirm it was Blake. Confirming it was indeed Blake, Jovan erupted in rage, pulling him out of the car. Before Blake could react, Jovan delivered a heavy punch to his face, followed by a few more blows, demanding to know why he was cheating on Zane. Blake quickly explained that his relationship with Zane was just an act. Zane was just a friend. Jovan's anger quickly dissipated, then said, "You should have said that earlier." He apologized to Blake and even offered him money to buy ointment for his face, then excitedly went back home. Trying to move on from Zane never worked. Now there was no reason to give up on Zane. Even if Zane no longer had feelings for him, he will make Zane fall for him all over again. In their shared office, Jovan's gaze remained fixed on Zane, tracking his every movement. Annoyed, Zane finally turned to Jovan and threatened, "I'll pluck your eyes out if you keep staring at me like that." Unfazed, Jovan replied, "I'll gladly give you my eyes." Zane rolled his eyes in exasperation before leaving the room. The next day, Jovan asked Zane, "How's your boyfriend?" Zane responded, "Why do you keep asking about my boyfriend? Do you like him?" Jovan grinned and said, "I know you two were just acting and weren't really in a relationship." Zane questioned, "Wait, were you the one who beat him up?" Jovan replied, "It was a misunderstanding, and I've already apologized." He then added, "I knew you wouldn't forget me that quickly." Zane looked at Jovan, utterly flabbergasted, and questioned, "Do you make a living by flattering yourself? Like I told you before, I've really moved on." Jovan challenged him, "Then look into my eyes and tell me you don't love me anymore." Zane silently locked eyes with Jovan for a moment, and Jovan said, "See, you can't say it." Just then, Zane grabbed Jovan's face, forcefully widening his eyes with his fingers as he glared into them, declaring, "I don't love you anymore." With a harsh release, he let go of Jovan's face and walked away. Jovan shouted after him, "I know you're lying." Jovan wasn't going to give up. As Zane scrolled through his phone one day, Jovan seized the moment and sent him a message. Opening it, Zane was met with a picture of a shirtless Jovan, his chest and abs glistening with water. Jovan knew how much Zane liked it when he sent him his shirtless pictures. Upon seeing the picture, Zane loudly remarked, "Why did I forget to block you?" Then instantly blocked Jovan's number. Turning to Jovan, he remarked, "You should work out more. You're growing a belly." As Zane looked away, Jovan quickly lifted his shirt to inspect his belly. Reluctantly paired for a job, Zane and Jovan headed to a club to keep an eye on their target and find the perfect moment to strike. As Jovan maintained vigilance, Zane unknowingly consumed drink after drink. Jovan glanced over to find Zane blacked out, surrounded by empty glasses. Jovan carried Zane to a nearby hotel, and the moment he laid Zane in the bed, Zane suddenly woke up and stood. He pulled Jovan and lifted his shirt, grinning. He caressed Jovan's abs, his touch trailing up to his chest. He then looked up at Jovan and suddenly kissed him. Jovan immediately kissed back, both destroying each other's mouths as it moved in sync and their tongues in each other's throats. Jovan's hand tangled in Zane's hair, while Zane's remained firmly planted on Jovan's abs. As they kissed, Jovan reached his hand to Zane's butt through his pants but suddenly stopped, thinking Zane would kill him if he slept with him while he was drunk. He withdrew his hand, breaking the kiss. Just as Jovan pulled away, Zane slumped back onto the bed, once again blacked out. Jovan hurriedly exited the room, closing the door behind him. He pitifully stared down at his awakened Jovan Jr. He booked another room and took a long, cold shower. As Zayn woke up the next morning, he found himself naked in an unfamiliar room. At that same time, Joven entered with honey water. The moment he saw Zayn sitting naked on the bed, he quickly said, "I didn't do anything to you." Zayn responded, "Did I say you did something?" He proceeded to dress without minding Joven in the room. Joven turned away, tapping his feet anxiously. There was no way he was going to be able to hold himself back a second time. As Joven turned around, he was met with the sight of Zayn, fully dressed and staring blankly at him. Handing over the honey water, he asked, "How do you feel?" Joven always made honey water for Zayn whenever he got drunk. Taking the water from Joven, Zayn felt a fluttering butterflies in his stomach. He muttered to himself, "These damn butterflies." In the days that followed, Joven did everything possible to pursue Zayn, but Zayn never gave in. Zayn finished his workout in the office gym and made his way to the bathroom for a shower, only in a towel wrapped around his waist. Thinking he was alone, he entered the bathroom, only to be met with the sight of a naked Joven showering, covered in soap. Surprised, Zayn's eyes widened as he questioned Joven, "What are you doing here?" Joven looked around before replying, "Showering?" Zayn sighed heavily and turned to leave, but found himself unable to. He muttered under his breath, "Don't do it, don't do it, shit." He unwrapped the towel and stepped into the shower with Joven, wasting no time in pulling him close for an intense kiss. Breaking the kiss momentarily, Joven asked, "Have you forgiven me?" Ignoring the question, Zayn commanded, "Shut up," before pulling Joven back into the kiss. Joven kissed back, pressing his soapy body against Zayn's as they kissed. Zayn wrapped his arms around Joven's neck and jumped, wrapping his legs around Joven's waist, without breaking the kiss. Joven held onto Zayn's waist to support him from sliding down his slippery body. They finished off bathing together and stepped out of the shower. Joven asked, "Are we back together now?" Zayn replied no, and walked out. Joven stood, asking himself, "Why do I feel like I've been taken advantage of?" Zayn remained distant and cold, leaving Joven to wonder what he could do to make Zayn get back together with him. Joven realized that he had never properly apologized to Zayn. Joven paired himself with Zayn for a debt-collecting job, hoping to apologize. Upon arrival, they were unexpectedly met with another gang, who attacked as soon as they spotted them, leading to a fight. As they fought, Joven felt the urge to apologize. In that moment, while fiercely fighting off their assailants, he expressed, "I just realized I never properly apologized to you. I know an apology won't change anything, but I'm really sorry, really. Sometimes I feel like I don't deserve a second chance, but also I don't want to lose you. I really, really love you and I want to be with you and grow old together." Zayn, also fighting, interrupted, "Is now really the time for this?" Joven halted his fight and looking at Zayn proposed, "Let's get married." Seeing a man attempting to sneak up on Joven, Zayn intervened, striking the attacker with a stick. Just then, the dark Hershey's and the white Snickers members appeared, causing the gang to flee. Zayn approached Joven, asking, "Are you crazy?" Joven responded, "I might be soon. Every time you ignore me, I feel like I'm losing it. Seeing you with Blake almost drove me crazy, and now, I'm about to go crazy thinking you'll never forgive me." Zayn retorted, "You better not go crazy because I can't be seen dating a crazy man. And I'm not marrying you, at least for now." Joven's eyes widened, his face lighting up with a smile, as he asked, "Are you forgiving me?" Zayn responded, "Something like that." Just as Joven moved to hug Zayn, he was caught off guard by a punch to his face, sending him to the ground. Zayn remarked, "I've been wanting to do that for a while." Still smiling, Joven stood up and attempted to hug Zayn again, but Zayn raised his fist once more. Joven braced himself for another blow, but instead, he felt a gentle touch on his cheek. Joven took Zayn's hand and pulled him into a hug. The two got back together, running their family business and making up for the lost time, mostly eating each other up.